Hi, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Brown Gunners podcast. I'm Zach, and I'll be here. I'll be your host today. I'm joined in this home studio with the amazing co-host Mosin. Here we'll be discussing how we almost comedically fumbled what was supposed to be a guaranteed three-pointer against the league's worst side, but managed to snatch and grab 3 points right at the death, courtesy of a second coming of Jesus. I know. Before you guys get onto me, I know it was an own goal, but I think this makes for a better opening line, especially with a team full of Bible boys. I couldn't help but make a more fitting joke. um, so this game had basically everything. Had goals, had own goals, had an almost controversial red card, and late drama at their death. Without further ado, let's talk about it. Mosin, how are you, my brother?
My guy, Zach, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Been a couple days since the game, so I think the dust has settled a little bit, feeling a little bit more sensible, I hope. So
Hmm.
hoping to share some concise and sensible thoughts with yourself on this first pod of ours. Um, yeah, feeling good. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think the rage has definitely settled. I was more like Rice in the last in the winning goal. I was just like, everyone get back into your position, get your head back into the game. But everyone was like celebrating in euphoria. I think we've done that in previous years before, where we've had late minute winners, and I think in late minute winners, you normally should be euphoric. But we'll get onto that in the game as it goes along. But yeah, dust settled, a bit calmer, and hopefully we'll have some unbiased, probably biased analysis going on. Um, but let's talk about the pre-game thoughts. So I know in a previous game against Villa, it kind of ended in defeat, uh, in similar fashion, to be fair. But we kind of responded back in midweek with a better performance and a win in the Champions League. But what were your thoughts going into or coming into this game, rather?
Yeah, I mean, like you said in your intro, I think um, there was very little expectation against Club Brugge. I think we won in ended up being really comfortable fashion. Um, Two like amazing goals, and I think for me, regardless of what happened in midweek, like you said, like this game against Wolves, we're all looking like, yep, 3 points. Thank you very much. See you
Mm-hmm.
later. Goodbye. Good night. See you next week, kind of thing, right? But and yeah, I had the same expectations. Despite the sort of, are we in an injury crisis, injury saga? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Despite that, Wolves have been so bad. I don't know what it is exactly. Like they haven't won. I think the last time they won a game was, I think someone said April
Yeah, it's not this
last.
season. Yeah, 15 games played, no wins,
Yeah,
15 defeats.
horrible, horrible, horrible. Campaign for Wolves, and I think no matter how poor we might feel we are, or how bad of a position we might feel we have been in the last few weeks, I think nobody would have been expecting anything less than 3 points, certainly going into this, and I was certainly one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of echo your kind of thoughts about that. I mean, Club Brugge, no expectations. We did pretty well. We had a few kind of players in positions that they weren't usually be in, such as Norgard in central defense. He had a great game, to be fair, even
Yeah,
playing in that. But it was great morale boost. It's always good to go into a game having won a game previously. But again, like you said, Wolves having a really dire season at the moment, kind of a hall of shame at the moment, to be fair. And they're looking like they're most likely going down. Last game was against United, 4-1 loss. Um, and there was loads of gaps in that game, so I was expecting something similar potentially. Um, and also they're coming to the Emirates without one of their best players as well. So I think Bellegarde has been one of their standout performers. He's the one who also scored against United as well. But unfortunately, I just don't think they have the players there at the moment. I think Cunha was a big player for them, and I think without their star man, it's always going to be an uphill battle, especially within your season when you're so used to relying on him to bail you out in so many instances. Um, but yeah, talking about the team news. Let's move on to it. What are your initial thoughts? Any surprises in the lineup that came out, or were you just like, yeah, whatever we put out, it's going to be enough to be a Wolves team?
Yeah, I did think no matter what we did, we should have enough as, you know, Arsenal Football Club, the squad of our size, even with our injuries. I think we should have had it. We had enough to deal with Wolves, but I guess, you know, I didn't watch this game live, right? So I watched it offline on
Hmm.
Saturday night. So when I started up my stream, you know, usually you sort of you get to enjoy and soak up the lineup information. So I kind of just went straight into the kickoff,
Right.
and so I only then did I realize, oh, great, Saliba's here, amazing. And so it was a bit of a strange feeling for me where I got to enjoy that moment after kickoff had sort of started for me personally. So that was great to see him coming back and returning and coming through the game, hopefully seeming like he's unscathed. The back four, obviously, despite Saliba coming back, was very different. Like again, I guess inevitable with the amount of injuries we've have had and are yet to have as well potentially. Everyone else, I think, I was happy with. Odegaard played. Can't remember like the majority of the game in midweek, so
Hmm.
was happy to see as a step in. Martinelli starting as well. I think, yeah, I was happy with it. I mean, I think the other big point was Gyökeres starting up front. Marina's played a lot of minutes. I think Mikel Arteta has been managing the minutes for Gyökeres since his return. I think quite carefully. We obviously don't want him to go down again. So yeah, I was happy to see him back. Not expecting him to play the full match, but again, against a team how we see on paper against Wolves, I was hoping and almost expecting him to get a goal or two, or I really was. Um, so yeah, just super happy, no complaints. Just I guess conscious of the people like, you know, the likes of Saka and Zubimendi in particular. They've been having a lot of minutes in their
Hmm.
legs, and this kind of, I guess, you know, almost feels like I hope they could last this long. With now we've got a week off after Wolves, which we get to. But yeah, I was just a bit conscious of that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think we had a strong bench as we do. You know, we had Medweke, Waneri, Norgard as well, and then obviously the main man Trossard. So yeah, I mean, we had a lot of firepower. So I just thought, okay, look, this should be comfortable. We've got plenty of talent and attacking prowess on the pitch and on the bench to hopefully comfortably see this through. Is what I
Yep.
was thinking.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I kind of echoed the kind of sentiment about Saliba. I was really surprised, but also a sense of kind of calm and a bit of safety that's back onto our back line. I think that's what it's the word I was trying to get to. It was a very calming presence. I just felt like when you see the names Gabriel, even Saliba in the back line, you just automatically feel a sense of reassurance that we're not going to really leak as many goals as we would normally do. Um, Again, I was thinking that it might have been rushed back a little bit, and I think that was probably um, the reason being is because of Calafiori's suspension. So he wasn't available for this match. So again, who would we have put in a Premier League match? You wouldn't want to put Norgard into the mixer straight away. But otherwise, to be fair, I think the back line speaks for itself. In terms of the actual lineup, I think I don't know. Obviously, you didn't see it live, but when the lineup came out, I think Sky Sports kind of put the back line as Timber left back, and I thought that was a bit concerning because obviously he's not going to be able to replicate what Calafiori really does on his natural side, and we're taking away Timber from his also natural side. So I know he's done a job there last season and whatnot, but it's not one of the things I kind of resonate with. But especially if we have MLS there, he was also natural in that position. I just didn't understand why Sky Sports had it as Timber left back, and
Hmm.
yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. Um, yeah, great. I think in terms of the bench as well, strong as you mentioned, you had basically a big hitters in there in terms of Odegaard, Jesus back from back from midweek as well. He had a really great game. Um, Actually did a lot better than what Gyökeres did the whole game against Club Brugge as well. So a lot of positives. So my sentiment going into the game was after seeing the lineup was if we don't win the game with the starting lineup we'll have enough coming off the bench to make the difference.
Hmm.
That was kind of my sentiment, to be honest with you.
Interestingly, right? I think this is, I guess, a big fast forward, right? But I think it's quite relevant. I think Arteta said in the post match, if he anticipated if we don't score within the first period. Now, obviously, we don't know what he means by first period, if it's the first half or whatever, the first 20, which I think we'll get to it, but I think we did start quite well.
Hmm.
He almost knew that there will be a lot of added pressure throughout the game, like if we
Mm,
don't break the deadlock. So I think it's interesting how we all felt quite comfortable. We all felt quite confident. But just I found that very interesting with from Arteta to say that almost anticipated
mm,
the potential nervousness or the potential anxiety that ended up transpiring, right?
mm.
After the game, and he almost anticipated that before. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's sort of
No,
funny
yeah, you
what
know
I
what?
heard.
That's really interesting. I think that kind of nervousness is also being kind of drip fed into the media. The media is also coming Carragher, Sky Sports. This all the analysis is Arsenal can't bottle it. You're in a position to win. You have to win this year. There's so much going on. Having a defeat of against Aston Villa with Man United, I mean not Man United, Man City rather, 2 points behind us. There's no, we couldn't drop points. Literally, we just couldn't. We couldn't afford to
Mm,
because there's empirical evidence of City once they get into the lead, they don't drop points. And then there's going to be the added pressure of us having to always pay catch up, and it's going to be a royal mess up if we don't just go into the new year as leaders. So again, added pressure and against, you know, teams that you should be winning against, and that's always been the sentiment from last year and the year before that. We always do good in the big games, but it's the smaller team and the teams that play the low block that we need to be beating. 3-3 against Southampton, losses against Brighton. I can name just a few on the top of my head, but you know what? Let's talk about the first half. Let's just go into it. What did you think about the opening 15 minutes? Any qualms? I thought was a lot of control without kind of incision. But yeah,
mm.
I would love to get your thoughts on your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt quite happy with the way we started. To be honest with you, Zach, I think we were expected to have possession and dominate the game. We did. I was slightly surprised, maybe I think I was to see Wolves. It felt like two banks of like four or five. Like everyone behind the ball. But then they did have a sort of an interesting strategy where they were pressing quite aggressively when we tried to play from the back.
Hmm.
So it's sort of like they did. It wasn't sort of like just brain dead everyone behind the ball. Like
Hmm.
they did try to do some of their homework,
Hmm.
where they looked to try and press us from the back. And I think that was a smart move. As we've touched on a lot in the last sort of week, 10 days. Another different back four who probably haven't played together in this way in their positions. So it's a smart move to press us in that way, and just test us and challenge us. So it was almost good to see that because you kind of felt that if we weren't going to be able to break this team down, maybe if we get through their high press in those rare moments and small moments, maybe that could be another way through potentially. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think as it's been in the last few games, all of our uh, you know all of our attack has been on the shoulders of Bukayo Saka, right? So, um, it's sort of like regardless of whatever Eze's doing or Odegaard is doing, like it's sort of everything's on his shoulders. It feels like, and it was ever present. I think there was a number of crosses within the first 15, 20 minutes at least, just sort of talking generally,
Hmm.
that were all coming from that side. It felt like, again, I wasn't sort of unhappy with that, like, oh, why isn't sort of the Martinelli side doing much? I was taking it for what it is. I think there was a chance within, I've got here around 7 minutes. There's a header from Timber,
Yep.
if you remember, sort of, don't know if Gyökeres is happy about that or not. Sort of about him in the box again.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think there was a good cross from Saka where he does find his man, and yeah, Timber sort of heads a bit over. It's one of those where because it happens so early in the game, you kind of just don't feel that deep about it.
Yeah.
But personally, I feel like rewatching the game, somewhat today, you kind of feel like that's a decent chance.
Hmm.
That's something that we should have done more in, right? We should have at least be hitting the target. So yeah, those were sort of my opening thoughts. I think there was something similar from Rice around the 15 to 20 minutes or so, sometime
Okay.
around then. There was a another good cross from Saka, slightly higher near the back post, roughly, I think it was, and then
Oh
Rice,
yeah, kind of headed
just
it into the ground. It didn't really amount to anything, didn't it?
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the one. Yeah,
Yeah, and again, that was kind of the theme. I think you summed it up pretty well in that opening 10, 15, 20 minutes. Um, we had a lot of the territory, we had a lot of possession, and it was all coming towards the right hand side. Um, and again, literally, it was Saka as positive as he could be, taking on his man. Sometimes triple or double marked at times, but still, we managed to create the separation between him and his opposition with some crosses into the box. Yeah, you mentioned the Timber chance. That was actually a really good chance. At the time, I didn't really make much of it. I think on the rewatch, this is the first time I actually rewatched the match, obviously in preparation for this call, and yeah, it was a decent chance. I just think he just caught it a bit wrong. But in terms of proximity to the goal, I think he could have done better. But what do you expect from a right back, really, isn't it, by trade? So not a big not really fussed on that in that respect. Um, on the contrary, you have the left hand side. There was a much build up on that side. Do you think that was because is it all Martinelli's fault, or is it a case of the back line is so mishmashed. Hincapie and him haven't really struck a partnership yet, whereas Timber or White, they've had a partnership with Saka, and that chemistry's been there for a couple of years now. So, do you have any sympathy for Martinelli? Do you think like he could have done more? Yeah, just love to know your thoughts on that. Really.
yeah, no, that's a good one. I think I'm not sort of like bashing Martinelli in any way. I think it's sort of quite feels quite prevalent this season on Martinelli to see that kind of play from him, or I guess sort of the sort of somewhat lack of attacking prowess from him on the left side. We had that bit in the early part of the season where he was almost taken out, right, and Trossard was starting a few games on the left instead of Martinelli, and we had that phase in the early part of the season, and I think I don't really think it's anything to do with Martinelli. Um, I can, having said that, I think I can only count one occasion. I think in the second half, which I know we'll come to, but where he actually beats his man.
Hmm.
So I don't really think it's on him necessarily because he's not. Even though he is a kind of player that can be his man, his like top attribute is obviously speed and
Mm,
acceleration. We don't see that enough of him, and I think that's a strategical thing. It's a tactical thing. Um, you know, where we are very right-sided as a team in general when we attack. I think everybody knows that.
mm,
We can afford to double, even triple mark Saka sometimes and Odegaard when they have those try to create those triangles and those pockets on the right side because we know there's not much going to be happening on the left from an opposition's perspective. I do think you make a good point about Hincapié or the fact that we don't have Califiori on the left because it probably would have been a bit different. And I think that's regardless of who we have on the left for Trossard or Martinelli. I think Califiori is such a unique player, one of a kind. I don't think any other players comes near him in what he
mm.
can provide, and it's almost like we didn't even know what he can provide until this season,
Yeah.
and we're seeing it for the first time. Um, how he comes in, and we don't need to get into that, but just sort of, I don't really think it's on Martinelli.
Yeah.
Basically, I think it's more sort of a tactical thing. And Capier, we haven't really seen him bomb down the wing
Mm,
wherever he is playing. Maybe like one or two occasions max he would do that, but he's obviously instructed to stay back.
yeah.
And so with Martinelli, who is he working with really? It's either
Yeah.
Eza or that's it.
That's it, really. And
Um,
I think I agree because at the time I was quite critical of Martinelli. He's like, oh, he's not doing enough, and he's not being his man, and he's not really doing anything that's being productive in terms of getting the team into a scoring position or making a threatening run or anything like that. But I think obviously it was a case of Hincapié playing a bit conservatively. He wasn't overlapping, he wasn't inverting. He was kind of just there, if that makes sense. So I do have a bit of
Mm.
sympathy for him, but yeah, I think yeah, overall, it was a bit lopsided. It was back to maybe the 22-23 season where it was very not Rice, I mean, sorry, White, Saka, and Odegaard kind of triangle and trying to make things happen. Um, but yeah, I think we can move on to the 27th minute. I think up until that point, it was pretty much Arsenal. I think Wolves fashioned the best chance of the half, really, up until that point. So Declan Rice long throw is kind of cleared. Zubi tries to put it back into the mixer, but a strong head essentially and forward by the Wolves defender kind of slips in Hwangi Chan. So he was really free high up in our own half, and he literally has acres of space to run into. Unfortunately, he's quite a rapid player, so he was able to cover quite a lot of distance and get his way to goal. Um, None of the defenders could actually catch him up. I saw Timber was probably the closest person to actually reaching him, but little too late, if that makes sense. But so it took himself a little bit wider than he would have been, but he managed to have a pop on goal, and it was kind of direct at the keeper, and Rea makes a very comfortable save, which could have actually been a more threatening chance if he had caught it right. Um, your thoughts on that? It was literally route wide sort of football, and then all of a sudden they've got a better chance than we've fashioned in the first 27 minutes.
Yeah, I think maybe even Wolves were a bit surprised to find themselves in that position
Mm,
because as you're watching it, you kind of just felt like, okay, Superman's tried a little dink and it's worked, in
mm.
previous games. Hasn't worked out. Great, the defender heads it out. Where's Saliba? You kind of just expect like, oh, when the camera goes to the left, we've got one more player there, surely.
Mhm,
But then, yeah, I guess I was a little bit surprised to see there was I don't know if it's a lack of organization, or sort of like just complete unexpectedness from the whole team of we do not expect Wolves to do anything this whole
mm,
game. Admittedly, I think that was like their one and only big chance the whole half.
mhm,
But I think we were a bit lucky to not concede there because can you imagine if we did? It just would have felt like a complete like sucker punch.
mm,
So even though I didn't feel too threatened throughout the whole half, like that is all a Premier League team really needs.
mm,
Just one small chance. Arteta's always got banging on about fine margins.
mhm,
It's all it's really it would take to swing a whole result or anything like that. So I think we were a bit lucky to not concede. Maybe no slight of Huang, but a player of any other potential caliber is easily slotting that away. Maybe he was too quick for his own boots
mhm.
potentially. Um, but I think this is also where I noticed on the replay White was holding his leg, wasn't he?
Yep. And I think in the replay it showed that as he was running back, he felt his hamstring go, and again, it's similar state to what happened to Gabriel a few months ago as well when he got his first injury. I think he was running back. He said something, but if it was, with all due respect, if it was to do with Emma Smith Rowe, sorry, he Gabriel would be catching him back. But because can't remember who the attacker was, because he was so fast, Gabriel had to do a sprint that he wouldn't usually expect to do, and that kind of puts a lot of pressure on the hamstring, and eventually it popped.
Mm.
And again, I think it's a case of we're putting Ben White, who's been in the fringes and kind of in the back burner for so long. You take a cold turkey out and defrost it. You either defrost it slowly, or you could just put it in the microwave and you can expect to get semolina, or get some sort of disease from it, because you're not meant to do that. And I think that's the same thing what happened to White as well. After man of the match performance, we've put him through 90 minutes. He was bound to get some sort of injury. So, in the best case scenario, I think 2 to 3 weeks. But I think I just saw today from Sammy Mukbel is about we're expecting about 4 to 5 weeks, and that leaves
Mm.
us again so light, and especially in a position where we have no other option. It's who do we put in? We don't have Thomas Partey that we could put in there. We don't have anyone else of the ilk that can play in that position.
Well, I think you make a good point there because like what are we going to see instead is probably Miles is going to have to come in at left back or
Mm,
slash Calafiori might have to come into a left center back, and Timber shifts over and everyone shifts over, right?
mm,
But you know I want to ask you, did you think that's what he should have done in the beginning of this match, because I totally forgot that this was the third or fourth, sorry, game White was starting, and he's had 3 90 minutes, and he's just come back. But we've got Miles, who's there. Miles
Yeah.
is, you know, scratching for minutes. There's this sort of potential narrative going on. And
Mhm.
did you think that we could have maybe was it the wrong back four? You know?
Uh, Initially, I was thinking we're stretching up our players. I think we're risking it. I mean, Ben White has had a stellar performance against Brentford, man of the match. He's been playing really well. But again, it's about managing those minutes of players. You see, Guardiola does it so well. City barely have any players that are out for so long. Um, they manage those minutes accordingly, and I think if you've got Calafiori out, it's just natural to have MLS come through as his replacement, and just don't try and do too much. Try and conserve the players that you have, especially with Gabriel's out. We're risking Saliba having another injury potentially by playing him in this match, and yeah, I don't know. It's we're not privy to what's happening in behind the scenes. Maybe the medical the doctors and the medical staff, they're saying that he's fit and ready to play, but I feel like you're risking it, especially in the wide positions where you're, especially with White, he's always trying to bomb down the wing. He's doing a lot of sprints per 90. So I don't know. If he doesn't have an injury, we wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be a big issue. But
Hmm.
because we're already thin in that area, I think it's been obviously a bit hyperbolic in terms of how we're analyzing it. But yeah, I personally, my thoughts and my feelings before the game was to have MLS play rather than White. Even I just think certain players need a rest. We're running them into the red zone, and he was one of them.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Actually, obviously, it's good chunk of hindsight, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's my thoughts as well.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, so that what leads us there is that MLS comes on, reshuffle at the back, Timber goes right back, Hincapié centre back alongside Saliba and MLS at left back, which kind of makes the sense structurally and kind of potentially in hindsight should give us that left hand side dynamic that we were kind of craving for before the match even began. But unfortunately, didn't really fix any of the attacking issues going forward. So, but we did have a chance in the third minute. Another set piece, as you do, a Rice wicked corner to the back post. Not sure what Martinelli was thinking. He kind of trying to put it back into the danger zone, or he was so close to the goal. He should have just scored. He should just aim for the goal or something. I'm not too sure. He's kind of just doing a few different things, and I think it was kind of begging for that chance to be kind of put on target. If I'll be really honest with you, but in those situations, the ball comes in so quickly. Your first instinct is probably to put in the back post to go into back into where it came from. But what do you think of that chance? Is it a good chance or semi good chance or eh.
Mate, just stick it in the net. Just stick it in the net. Like
Ruthless?
this was such a huge opportunity. I thought watching it, it was like I really thought like this is a bad miss.
Mm,
Um, you know, uh, yes, how many times have we seen Big Gabby be there and just like somehow bundle it in or
mm,
whatever, like making great contact. Like even though he is a beast for us in that sense, it he was free. Like he was
mm.
completely free, and I'm fairly sure I can't remember exactly what he said, but I'm fairly sure even Arteta mentioned this chance as well in his post
Yeah,
match. Like when
singled
you're
him out.
4 yards out,
Mm,
exactly. Like come on, you have to be taking these chances. So yeah, even before hearing Arteta say that, I was felt quite aggrieved to not see that go in. And it kind of just really felt like, oh, okay, this is gonna be one of those
those games,
games.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and I think that's kind of worked its way towards the 37 minute. It was a game of on the rewatch. I'm thinking we did have plenty of chances. We were creating something or another, or we were doing something in a way that we were fashioning chances or half chances, if that makes sense. So it wasn't a case of the team was just devoid of any ideas or things like that. And I guess on the 37th minute, we probably created our best attack of the half. So I think Eze picks it up in the right hand side pocket. he kind of takes it in infield, kind of slips in Saka on the right hand side, who puts in a first time cross into the box, which was just begging to be slid in. I can't remember. I think watching Arsenal throughout the years, we've had some really clinical strikers from Van Persie to Adebayor to Eduardo, Henri. Um, Obviously, from what I can remember from my days, I know we had Anelka and Ian Wright before that, but we've always had strikers. Even Giroud, I know that he would have got
Mm.
onto the end of that chance. Even if he missed it, most likely he would have taken it wide, or would have gone. He would have got a touch on it. So, with that being said, do you? I was going to wait until have this conversation later, but do you think it's time to have that discussion about Gyökeres and address the elephant in the room? For me, I think that movement was poor in terms of how he fashioned it. I think he waited too long. His anticipation was wrong. Like he knew the ball was going to come in the box, but he kind of started, kind of thought about it, and then kind of ran into the box when it was too late. He didn't even get even a touch on the ball. I personally was quite disappointed in that, and I think I expect my striker to be at least throwing his body on the line for that challenge and getting something on it, even if it's fractionally missed. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it was a half of super low involvement. I think 5 touches altogether in that half. Struggled to bring players into play. Didn't threaten in the box. Is this a system issue, or is this a striker issue, or is it none of the above? And is something from Mars? You tell me.
I did feel that Gyökeres should have done better.
Mm.
I completely agree. When you watch the replay, he kind of just like slips over. Like I need to show like I was there,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
like falls back on his arse a little bit. It looks quite funny. But no, I think if you rewatch it as well, he kind of only reactively makes the run
Hmm.
after the Saka had already played the ball with
Yeah,
that low cross. You kind of, you mentioned Giroud. Giroud eats up for like, front posts.
easily
How many times has he scored from front post? Now
bread
that
and
wasn't
butter.
obviously
Mm.
that wasn't exactly like a front post chance, but what I'm getting at is like, movement, and I think he should have done better. I agree. I'm actually more disappointed in Martinelli's sort of it goes past Gyökeres and it goes to Martinelli the
Right.
back post, and I'm more disappointed in Martinelli. I think with his left foot tries to sort of hit it across, and then I
Mm.
think it ends up deflecting off the defender or whatever. I'm sort of more upset about that, to be perfectly honest with you, Zach. But I guess as a general point about Gyökeres, I know there's so much talk about him. I'm I'm not worried. There might be a point eventually where I do get worried. Right now, I'm not. Still,
Mm.
I think this is his. It's only his second start since he's come back from injury. I think he started against Club Rouge.
Mm.
He started today's sorry, the weekend's game as well. And all I would say to people who are maybe potentially worried, and anyone who's listening or is reading about Gyökeres and he's just not it for Arsenal. I think have a look at the Burnley game before he gets injured. Yeah,
Mm.
he was a bit of a beast.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think he maybe he's like a slow starter or whatever you want to call it. Um, you know, People often talk about the transition from the Portuguese league to the Premier League. There's already it's literally a couple of players like Ronaldo, Fernandez who have made that instant impact, instant transition. So there is definitely a bit of a transition there that shouldn't be understated. Is he built for that transition? Yes, I think he is. Is he like built for the transition and in the best possible system at a club like Arsenal? Now that's a debate,
Mm.
which maybe could literally be its own podcast.
I agree.
I think um, there could be things that we could do as Arsenal in our system, and Arteta to maybe like back in the day, Wenger used to literally revolve the teams around Cesc, right? Like
Hmm.
everything would be around Cesc for those few years where like we almost were like challenging for the title and everything. The Eduardo injury season and everything. Right? I'm rolling the tape back a little bit.
Showing your
Um,
age.
Arteta is never going to do that.
Mm,
He's never ever ever going to do that. He's not going to change anything that drastically for one player like that.
mm,
Maybe at most he might do that for like a Saka
yeah.
potentially, but he won't ever do that for Gyökeres. So it doesn't mean that Gyökeres has to fit Arsenal and that's the only way it's going to work. I think Arteta himself mentioned, because the presser would love asking him about it. I think Arteta mentioned something about it's a collaborative effort or something,
Mm,
right? Something like that. It works both ways, right? It's like any good healthy relationship with family or
mm,
friends, right? Like you both got to make a bit of effort.
yeah.
So in this instance, I think Gyökeres should have made a bit more effort.
Mm,
I do have a general point of that. Throughout the whole game, there were a lot of crosses that just didn't meet and just were not good enough for
mm,
Gyökeres. I think it was this game. It might have been in the second half potentially. But there's a clip going around. I saw it on the Arsenal Reddit, Gunners Reddit thread, where Gyökeres makes really good run in the middle, and it's almost like Odegaard's
that's
like
the
do you know
goal.
the horses like they have that little, I don't know
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
call
yeah.
it. I think that like Odegaard's like the anti one where he can only see
See,
everything
yeah,
the
wide.
side,
Yeah.
not
He's
not just.
got he's got loads of peripheral vision, but no central vision. Yeah.
It was almost like that. Like there was like two or three occasions where Odegaard just could have slipped him in, and
Mm,
like Gyökeres is like in a good way. It's like a dog. Like just let him off the leash. Just let him
yeah.
go.
Because I saw he
You know?
made that run to the left, and then because Odegaard took too long, he had to bend his run and go to the left
That's it.
or the right, whichever it was. But either time, he could have slipped him in, didn't slip him in, and went wide towards Martinelli or whoever it was on the wide, and didn't really fashion to any chance. And I think you make a good case. I think it's probably worth having it on a separate pod just for what we talk about Gyökeres. But you're right. I think it does work two ways. I think Gyökeres is probably making those runs. It's just the balls into him are just not good enough, or we're not picking them out quick enough. And I think you see most of the top sides. You look at Haaland, for instance. He's not super touch heavy in the game, but when he does get the ball, he is effective with the ball when he does get it. So I think that's what we're trying to look for. When he does get the ball, I know the odd chance that he does get the ball. What my frustration is with Gyökeres is that he doesn't really take it under control well enough, or if he's getting pressed by a defender, he doesn't really impose himself. He's such a big lad. He's got big bicep, triceps, deltoids, all of that stuff. Probably twice the size of mine and yours, put together. But can you use that effectively? Can you bring other players into play? I think what he does is like he kind of gets the ball. We know that his first touch is never going to be the best, but it's refining that and just trying to bring people into play. Again, I echo the same thing. Burnley, fantastic. I was literally like, that's what my number 9 should be doing. It's just a shame that he's just not showing that in a more frequent basis. And I think when he does get the ball, and if we do get it to him, that he needs to show a bit more. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at is you haven't been super threatening throughout the whole game, but when you do get it, try and be effective as much as you can. And it's not one for trying. You try something, it doesn't work out great, but just need a bit more, I think. But I guess that's probably the story for another day, and that's the story of his game throughout. But the half ends. I think there was like a final chance for Wolves actually. There was a Rice free kick which was cleared. Same thing again, which happened in the first chance. Rice free kick again cleared. Wolves work it nicely upfield. They kind of win the second ball in the air and they work it towards the left hand side. Literally a great first time low cross into the box. Hincapié kind of slips, but thank God
Oh yeah.
he managed to pick himself up and kind of block the cross, and the ricochet works well to Joe Neves. Luckily, I think he kind of took Gyökeres' first touch, and he kind of went a bit out of control, so he didn't have a clean strike. But again, it was kind of defended away, and um, but another a warning sign of another transitional Wolves counter attack. And I think those are two of the best chances of that half, really, to be honest with you. So I think we dominated, but Wolves had the clear of the moments. Um, we were predictable, I guess, over reliant on Saka on that side, and kind of had a blunt left hand side. It felt like one of those halves where we could have played that same half for another 45 minutes and we would have scored. I think the chances that we were fashioning, sorry, wasn't really clean. And for me, if I was the manager, I would have personally made a change at halftime. But my thoughts going into it, I think he's already made a change at halftime. I can't remember, it was against Aston Villa. Um, and I don't think he wants to send the same message again. So if it was me, if something didn't change within the first 10 minutes of that half, I would be looking to change and not waste any more time, because I think again, to play that half a dozen other times, we're probably not scoring again. So I think changes were needed going into that second half. But yeah, your final thoughts on that half?
Yeah, no, I think I guess disappointing not to have scored since we had a couple of chances. Agree that arguably Wolves had the better chance with the Huang one we mentioned. I wasn't personally expecting any changes to be made at halftime. I think we're at home. I think Arteta, um, you know, wants to still show like a sign of faith for the team out there at
Mm,
least. And I think he did. Going into the second half, I think he did at least wait for a good 10-15 minutes before
yeah.
making any subs. I personally thought that was the right call. Um, but yeah, no, I think obviously a bit nervous at halftime, hopeful, and still expecting us to get the win.
Mhm.
But yeah, still felt generally confident at that point still,
Yeah,
albeit nervous.
I think sometimes we're a second half team. I think sometimes the first half we kind of just take it, we kind of cruise. If that makes sense, we kind of cruise and we don't really show that urgency and stuff like that. Um, and I think sometimes we're a second half team. I think sometimes the dryer comes out in the dressing room. Maybe that's the thing. We've seen the documentaries, Arteta getting angry. That was such an accent. I don't know why I did said in that accent. Um, but yeah, so I mean, the team came out in the second half. No changes at halftime, but opening 10 minutes, same pattern, same problems. I feel nothing materially changed after the break. We kind of circulated the ball slowly. Balls are extremely compact. It was really hard to kind of break them down. And then for me, the only notable thing was again Martinelli was kind of struggling within those one v ones. Um, and although the first time he kind of manages to create separation, it kind of works into a brilliant chance where he kind of could have slipped Gyökeres through, but he kind of went for goal. I think maybe going for goal was probably the best option, especially if he could have whipped it. We've seen him whip it before into the far corner, um, but it was agonizingly wide. But 59 minutes for him to kind of create a chance, and I think it was a little too late. I think around that time, I think Arteta had kind of had enough, and he kind of ready some changes, in the form of three swaps. So that's Odegaard, Trossard, and Marino for Eze, Martinelli, and Zubimendi. Yeah, your thoughts on that chance, and do you think the substitutions were the right call and the right things, or the one that you would do?
Yeah, I think the Martinelli one, I mean, he only really had that shot he attempted, or there was a slight potential cutback option to Rice, but
Mm,
I think there were at least, I think from memory, there was at least like three or four players who were in the middle, like covering any chance of getting it to Saka or Gyökeres. So I think it was either him taking that chance, or maybe he didn't see or didn't want to think there was any other alternative.
hmm
So I think that was sort of um, fair.
hmm
The subs, yeah, I was really happy to see them. I think even with Zubimendi, with Merino, I think Zubi's had a lot of minutes, and he's managing his minutes. We mentioned as well, so I think that was the right decision, and I was quite happy that he did it that early as well. Didn't wait too long because again, like like we said in the beginning, this was a must-win game, and
hmm
um, yeah, I kind of felt like after the subs, I mean, I personally didn't know if they made too much of an impact in terms of what sort of happened straight after. Wolves were basically non-existent the whole of the second
hmm
half until the end. Um, I think there was a Rice free kick. I think was the next thing that happened.
Yes, yes, yeah. It wasn't quite Real Madrid esque, but it still had a whip, still had bend. If there was no goalkeeper in sight, it probably would have gone in, but it was fairly sort of comfortable for the goalkeeper. He made a routine save. I think as it was curling, it kind of fell inward towards the goalkeeper, so he couldn't make that save. But again, if it was towards the corner, I think it would have caused a little bit more problems. I think we've scurried ahead because I think on the 59th minute there was a Hwang Hee Chan foul, so Wolves kind of cleared the ball in the air. Hwang controls it quite well with his first touch, but second touch kind of was a bit wayward. And then he was chasing the second touch, and MLS was incoming to kind of nick it off him. But he kind of went up with the steads up. Um, and I was like, oh, initially I was like, red card, red card, red card. But when I saw the replay, I was like, orange. If orange was a card, I'd probably give an orange. Probably a sin bin time just to get him off the pitch for a bit. Um, but again, it- if he was sent off, I'd understand the reason why. And if he got a yellow card, I kind of understood the reason why. I didn't think it was enough to be a red card, and I didn't think it was also a yellow card. I just thought it was in between. It was literally borderline. It's up to the referee for interpret your interpretation of the game as well, and, and the referee. So, your thoughts? The red card, or
I
oh,
mean, immediately I thought that was a red.
yeah,
Upon the replays, I thought it was a red.
really,
And then I had to just quickly Google what the commentator's name was. Sue Smith, that
what?
Sky Sports lady with the big,
Yeah, what
upper
on earth was
kilt.
she saying? What talking about?
Like
Nonsense.
straight, even before they were like, because they get to listen into
Mm,
VAR, right? Like even before that was happening. Oh no, that's not red. That's not red. Or
yeah,
whatever her accent. Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, what are you on about? Like his studs are up. Like
It's out of
they're,
control.
they're a bit off. Yeah, he's off the ground. Like
Mm,
but then I'll be honest with you, Zach. Yeah, while this is happening, sort of a parallel thought I had was, damn man, am I really scrounging around the bowl for a red card from Wolves?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, what am I doing, man?
Literally,
Like, is that what I need right now? Like to try and get anything from this game? Like, I thought like, oh, let's just move on from this. You know, like,
yeah,
oh, we shouldn't be relying on this. Who cares if it's red? Cool, let's go. If it's not, cool. I don't want to complain about. It. Let's
yeah.
go.
Let's carry
Is
on.
what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to the substitution, I think Trossard was quite positive in that game. I think I didn't really see Marino. I did think I even noticed him throughout the whole game. To be honest with you, it was quite a silent one and quiet one from him. I think it usually is when he's in midfield. I think his best work is usually in the number 9 position. Um, but yeah, I think 15, 25 to 25th minute of the second half, it was literally all us, wave after wave, attack after attack. There was a few notable chances. I think Saka crossed into the box for Gyökeres, who kind of flicked his head back and he kind of went wide. Declan Rice had this free kick, like you mentioned, and then Trossard also plays a wonderful ball through the Wolves, the defender's legs, and kind of picks out Rice. If you remember that chance where he kind of picks out Rice in the center of the park, and then he kind of bends one into the bottom corner, but it was parried away by Sam Johnston. So again, we were trying to work our way and trying to work out things to do in that game. And I think Trossard's introduction was quite pivotal in that. There was no longer we were going from right hand side and only doing the right side. It was right to left and left to right. So if Trossard wasn't doing something, Saka was. And what I liked about Trossard's performance was is that he didn't need to beat his man. He got his teammates involved into the game, so he was picking out the right passes, seeing things centrally. Whereas Martinelli's a lot of his work is head down, try to beat your man 1v1. And I think that wasn't the type of game that we needed from him at that time. And I think that's one of the skill sets I wish Martinelli had, was the ability to pick out a pass quicker, and work with his teammates a bit more. Um, but yeah, um, I think that was it really. I don't think much was going on within that whole bracket of relentless wave. It was just half chances, some chances. We are getting closer. We are peppering them. And I think Mikel had kind of had enough on to towards the 80th minute when he replaced Gyökeres with Jesus. So for me, there was no real surprises there. I think apart from that flick on backwards, and I think actually he did have a second chance. Actually, Gyökeres. I think Trossard picked him out over the top, and it was back towards goal. He kind of fashioned his chance onto the left hand side, and he kind of smashed it or slashed it kind of wide on the right hand post. I don't know if you remember that one.
From Gyökeres,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I actually really, really liked that chance.
yeah.
That was sort of really like I was like, yes, this is Gyökeres that we know and love.
Mm.
But Zach, that was after we actually scored. We
Really?
scored. Yeah, we scored from we scored around the
Oh
70th
yes,
minute.
you're right. You're right. How did I glaze over that one?
Yeah, we scored from the corner. I think Saka and
Right.
Rice, Rice, I don't know if he was still having an illness.
Mm.
Saka's delivery again was spot on. This one was extra juicy, wasn't it? Like,
Mm.
especially the replays at the sort of near the baseline, sort of you could really see it curving in that sort of the top corner. Lucky, I think we were a bit fortunate for obviously the way it goes in.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like we did enough to
Warrant.
throughout the game. yeah, to feel like we deserved it.
Mm,
Having said that, I like to have a balanced argument. So, having said that, even though I do feel like we deserved it, I think it was only around then, or maybe with the Rice free kick, sometime around then, 60th, 70th minute, was when we had our first shot on target.
mm.
So, I guess that sort of epitomizes the frustrations that we had throughout the game. Um, but yeah, I think we were good value for money in the end to deserve at least that first goal. I felt. Um, did you feel obviously sort of the same? Did you feel like relieved or like okay, that's the game job done?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of what we needed to just get kick up the backside in terms of, all right, we've got the goal, let's go for more. Because I think that will kind of stretch Wolves. They obviously don't want to have another defeat. They'll probably push more players forward. I think there were banks of twos and fours. So I personally believed, I think this would have been the catalyst for us just trying to smell blood and just put them to the sword and kind of finish them off, if that makes sense. I think United had the same thing. Once they got the first goal, they kind of finished them off really. Um, and yeah, it's fortunate the way it goes in. I'm not at this point. It doesn't matter how it goes in, as long as it goes in, and we just get the victory. So, this was towards what do you say, 70th minute, I guess, along that side.
Yeah, I got it was around 70th to 75th minute, 70th minute, sometime around then.
Mm,
I think you didn't feel like there was much left of the game, but
yeah.
um, yeah, and then you mentioned the Gyökeres chance. I, other than that, I personally didn't feel like there was much else happening in the game. Um, I don't know about you, but it kind of felt like to me after we had scored, after Gyökeres sort of had his one sort of moment,
Mm,
semi moment, he created it himself,
mm,
and then he came off for Gabriel Jesus. It kind of felt like we weren't really fashioning any more chances. Like we had a few crosses, they were missing their targets. They weren't getting
mm,
past the first man. It felt like, and it kind of felt like the team were like, okay, we've done enough. And to a degree, you might think they're right because Wolves had zero shots until that point in the whole of the second half. I don't know what that means in XG. Zero? I don't know. But
probably.
like you've got nothing. They were doing nothing. Yeah, they were just taking all the hits.
Yeah.
And so you could argue, okay, maybe they're onto something here, Arsenal.
Mm.
But obviously,
It wasn't to be, and I kind of echo that. I think once Gyökeres came off 83rd minute, I was like, I literally can't recognize my team anymore. I was like, from all the ways where literally Wolves were in their own half, literally deep into their half. And I was like, what's just happened? It's just been a mirror flip in terms of what's happened. Now we're banks of fours deep in our half. And I think the game started to become stretched. And I think there was a lot of gaping holes within certain areas of the pitch. And that wasn't there before. And it kind of felt like, reminiscent of the days when we used to chuck on Rob Holding and then he'll be like 5-3-2 and do a little wink and that. And we were just like, you know what, we're just gonna shut up shop and not do anything for the rest of the match. Um, it was so weird. It's like we've gone from Wolves having one man basically up top, and all of a sudden they've got eight man in our half, and we're fours and fives at the back, and we've got everyone behind the ball. And I remember there was this one chance on the 88th minute where there was like two vertical balls that you Wolves played. So it was like in the back line. They smashed one straight into the midfield, cut through like one or two, so like three, four players of ours. And then again, the midfielder kind of picks out a pass to the striker. Luckily, the striker wasn't to have a good touch, and kind of Hincapié and Timber, or was it MLS, one of the two, were able to push it clear. Otherwise, if the striker kind of took it well in his path, I think it would have gone and had a free shot on goal. And I guess that would have been there was the danger strands were kind of there. And at that point, I was nervous. I was like, the crowd's becoming nervous. You can hear it like, oh my god, what is happening right now? We're just absorbing the pressure, and we know what's happening against Aston Villa when we absorb the pressure. Something's gonna go wrong. And lo and behold, 90th minute, Wolves started playing their game. I think Fer Lopez crossed it into the box. I think there was like a man free in the box of Wolves. Kind of headed it back into the path of one of his players. It kind of went behind him, but there was three. He was able to. The Wolves player was able to take it in his grasp, and there was three players surrounding him: Saka, Odegaard and Rice, who was a little bit behind. So I'm not going to go hard on Rice, but not
Mm.
one of them tries to break a sweat to try and close him down. And he had time to set it. The ball goes into the box, and Hincapié, similar thing that happened against Aston Villa, where he kind of fails to beat his man or get a good connection or go to the ball first. The ball kind of like lands in perfectly for the striker to head home, and well, it's 1-1, and it's another late goal that puts a dagger in our hearts. And I was just thinking, "Ah, we've messed it up. We've actually messed it up again. How we've done this." But yeah, your thoughts in that passage of play and the kind of the equalizer as it was.
Honestly, yeah, like even though we ended up winning the game, right? Which I know we'll get to in a second.
Mm.
Like it was borderline unforgivable.
Mm.
Like that, the lack of trying to stop the crossing because normally you blocked up the middle. You're right. Like they typically say, if you're going to turtle in your shell, you block up the middle, and the only way they can cross it is far away from the corner. Like
Mm.
when you're in the corner, and even then. The one or two players who are blocking the wingers, yeah, or the fullback, or whoever's trying to attempt to cross it in, you try and block the crossing. You block the
Absolutely.
crossing, there's no danger in the middle, right? And so it wasn't even those usual scenarios. It's almost like semi in the middle of the park. And so, like for me, that was like quite unforgivable from Saka, Odegaard, or whoever else it was there that would have been their responsibility.
Mm.
It's kind of like the way they look to me, not to go too in. Yeah, I know I'm just sort of making a bit of a joke, but it's almost like when you play FIFA and you do that jostling move. I think it's L2 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
It's like the defenders just like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
just like that, It's like, okay, cool, bro, but like you gotta go in and like
Mm.
tackle them. You can't just stand there and jostle in the middle and not do
Mm.
nothing. I don't know, man. The guys are obviously either like just switching off a little bit,
Mm.
whatever the reason is. Hincapié, was he on the wrong side of the striker? I mean, should you really be expecting the ball to come in from the middle like that? I don't know, but
Yeah.
that striker was huge, by the way. So maybe
I think there
no
was a
matter.
mismatch in terms of height and power compared to the other two. But we've also heard that Hincapié is a warrior, captain of Ecuador. Um, so I, to be fair, on replay, I did see like the distance between Saka and Odegaard was so. How can you explain it? Like they was too close together to the person. So you kind of think, oh, is he going to go for it or shall I go for it? It's one of those ones that if it was close to one of the other players, so if it was close to Saka, Saka would have gone for it. If it was close to Odegaard, Odegaard would have gone to it. But it was in kind of this patch where it was a bit of they're both equally as close to to the opposition player as they were. So it was just like, okay, do you do it? Do you do it? And if both of them go to it, then they'll be like, oh, why was there lack of communication in that respect? Um, but again, it's maybe I'm being critical of Hincapié, but again, he had a really good game. But it was again reminiscent of what happened in against Aston Villa, where he kind of didn't work the cross out well enough. He kind of headed it backwards, and it fell into Matty Catch's path, and kind of went into the goal. I mean, he did his job, and then again, that time Eze was switched off. But this time, should he have done better? I know Gabriel wouldn't have let the striker have a chance, or even Saliba, but yeah, again, it's just a bloody sucker puncher, really. It wasn't expected to come. I think this was like the third shot they had in the game, and they scored from one of those chances, and it's just ridiculous. I just didn't expect it to happen, and I think we should have shop, sorry, a lot earlier than we did, and we shouldn't have absorbed that pressure. I think the best pressure what we had was pushing them back in their half and sustaining the attacks that we had. Um, but it wasn't to be, or was it? 6 minutes of additional time. Come off the man, come off the hour, or come off the hour, come off the man, whichever one it was, whichever cliche you like, or in whichever order you want. Saka comes again, whips in another delightful cross, and into the path of Jesus. And somehow I thought it went off him, and I was just like, yes, this is what my number nine does. And it was just a sense of relief. Like I just didn't see in the minutes up to the third minute of additional time, or the six minutes of additional time. We obviously played 3 minutes of that. I just couldn't see us do anything. We were trying to do stuff, and then there was some time where Rice was trying to hit it clear, but it was or bring it forward, and it was kind of cleared by the defender. There was a lot of Wolves were kind of pressing man to man now, and they were getting a bit closer. So obviously trying to shop. Um, but again, that same Ryan side, I think he was pressing the whole game. I think he was the man of the match as well, Saka. He puts in another delightful cross. I know he had a delightful corner that literally went off went in off the post from the goalkeeper, but he was pressing. He was one of the ones that were he was the guy that was going to come up and do something if he was anyone to do anything. And again, Gabriel Jesus, right place, right time. And I think at that point, I think there was a bit of desperation. The whole game, we didn't have many men in the box, and at that point, we had about four Arsenal players in the box. So if it didn't land if it didn't land on Jesus, maybe Ricochet or one of the bounce would have fell into the path of one of an Arsenal player. But glad it wasn't to be, and it kind of flies into the back of the net, and relief upon relief. You don't understand. Mossian, I was so relieved by that going into the box, especially with Man City breathing right behind us, and they could have probably overtaken us as well. So, what are your thoughts on the match winner?
Yeah, honestly, I think I I was still a bit in shock about us conceding, and so seeing um, seeing obviously us go out the other end, it almost felt like straight away and find somehow from a nowhere the winning goal. It was still kind of in just overall disbelief,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like a mixture of confusion, annoyance, relief.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Thank God we won this. Oh, but why we shouldn't have been in this position, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of really just messed up at that point, and yeah, I think for me, what stood out was just sort of at full time. I think you might have seen the clip of sort of when Arteta's shaking the players' hands, and you see Marino's face. It's just like, oh, sorry, boss. Like, well, at least we did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was I sort of noticed that straight away, and it's funny how that's going through the rounds. And there's another clip as well of Rice, who sort of just looks really like stroppy.
Yeah, I think he was quite annoyed about the fact that his teammates almost fudged it at the end. Yet again, especially when we can't afford to be dropping points, this is not what champions are made of. And I think you could see he was already annoyed when the winner went in and his teammates were celebrating the winner. But you could see that annoyance was there from the get go. He was saying, "Look, get back in your position. The game's not won yet. Do you get me?" So like they could there's probably 2-3 minutes still left, and we can easily mess it up again. And I think that's the leader that he is. His standards are very high. I think his standards are embodiment of what Arteta is, and that's what he is on the pitch. Um, and especially the way he's been talking, it feels like, you know what, the boss is the team structure's right, the boss is right, everything's right about Arsenal this year. So he's talked up a big one. So he in his mind he believes that he's gonna win a trophy, same as Saliba. He's said the same thing. Where it's about time that we win a trophy. Um, and these aren't the standards of Arsenal Football Club should be. Like I was thinking about this the other day, where the Bournemouth game. We know when Reece Nelson scored that late winner, and then we were just going crazy. Due to the expectations that year, there was no expectation. We were in a position where we shouldn't have been challenging for the league. Fast forward 2-3 years, we're now in a position where we've spent heavy. We've got the same team. We've got really good defense. We've got an amazing attack and amazing midfield. We should be winning these sort of games. This is not a sort of game that we should be, you know, leaving to the death to win in an unconventional manner. Um, and I think that was echoed in his kind of demeanor throughout the once the game ended and at the final whistle as well. So, and I kind of agree with him, and I think we over celebrated that goal. I think that's probably the same what the supporters probably think as well, in terms of, yeah, sure, great, it was a relief, yes, glad, celebrate it, but get back in your position and don't ever do that again, because that wasn't right. We shouldn't be doing that, especially against the statistically worst team in the league. So
I
yeah.
think it's like statistically the worst team on track for like in history of Premier League.
And I
But
think.
yeah, it did seem like a bit sort of confused feelings, wasn't it? Like you said, Rice trying to bring them back in and tell them, just switch on, focus.
Yeah.
Saka then pulling away like, "Yeah, yeah," like, "We did it," kinda thing, and
Yeah.
I think maybe like the fans, the players were just a little bit like just mixed emotions, like the players know themselves that it wasn't a great performance and sort of must have had that relief to have won it at the end. I've got Saka's comments after the game. I'm happy with the 3 points, but disappointed with how we played and how the outcome was almost us dropping points. So
Mm,
let's take the points, move forward. It's nice to have a bit of a break, but it's not time to relax. It's just a bit of a reset, and then we go again.
no.
And maybe as a professional footballer, like winning the game, there's a bit of like relief. No, not relief. Sorry, release that you get from
Release.
celebrating sometimes in a certain
Mm,
way. And your players have their own personalities and
mm.
characteristics and demeanors, and maybe sort of all of that just mashed up together is probably what that end celebration was.
Yeah, it was like it seemed like even though they were collectively celebrating, everyone else was doing their own celebration, if that made sense. It was weird. It was like, okay, Hincapié is doing some own thing, and then Saka's slapping someone else, and Odegaard's like, "Yes, thank you." Of course, it's that o- oxytocin. Is that the word? Release? I don't know what it was. Testosterone release. God knows what the scientific amount. I got C in science, so don't quote me on that one. Don't take your science lessons from me. Um, but you know what? Final thoughts on the game. I think I'm glad we didn't manage to royally mess that up. Um, in terms of performance wise, I think we had almost basically 70% of the possession. But the stat that really makes me wonder is 16 shots, 8 corners. It should have been a demolition. But in reality, it was a bit of frustration and impatience from us. Only 2 shots on target kind of said everything in terms of we had a lot of quantity in terms of shot, but no quality in terms of actually hitting the target. Um, it shows that we're quite vulnerable in terms of defending. I think emotions get the better of us. 3 shots on target for Wolves, 2 on target compared to our 16 shots and 2 on target. And one of the ones that they had a shot on went into the back of the net. So an organization lack of not I wouldn't say lack of trying, but again, we need to work on ourselves, reset, have that really strange that we have a week off before another game. Normally we're three day every 3 days it's a game. Um Over reliance on Saka again. He was involved in everything genuine. So Saka's the one guy that we kind of went to force a chance, whether it's a set piece or take on his man, to create a chance, and he kind of well, to be fair, he did fashion both of the chances on his own. One through a corner and one through a forced swing and a inshallah into the box, and it kind of went into the path of thing. But I think it's a tale of own goals tells the story. So when your goals come from 2 own goals, it's not inspiring football, but it's luck that gets you championships along the way. I know I've watched Liverpool last year, and I've seen the Fergie's teams and United teams from before. There've been times where they had shocking performances and they didn't deserve the victory. We deserve the victory, but again, it's Arsenal creating Arsenal problems. You've seen that meme where it's like Arsenal and then the guys hit the man and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think we just reset, go again, and then we've got enough break in between the Everton game and with Everton. So a quick talk on that. I think they're doing quite well. I think they had a defeat, didn't they? What's the Everton scoreline
Yeah,
fixtures?
I think they
I
lost
think they lost
the previous
to
game.
who was it? Was it Newcastle? No, it was Chelsea. So they won against Nottingham Forest. They lost to Chelsea 2-0. But the silver lining, and I guess to get the great news is that I think there's some injury and suspension doubt. So that could be like the whole attack and increase, including Jack Grealish, Kevin Dewsbury Hall, and Iliman Njai. And I think Gay's still suspended after he slapped his own player. I think that was one of the things he did. So I think he's out. So it should be a rotated and less conventional Everton team. So I don't know. We also got injuries ourselves, but I just hope that the team can come again, go to Goodison Park, or I don't know, it's called New Goodison Park now. I'm not too sure what the new stadium's called, but go again, get 3 points, and just turn out the games until we get some defenders back because we're on thin ice. We need everyone to just do what they can do, just to manage the minutes, manage the load, and just pray and hope for no injuries that come again. into the new year, because I've seen Gabriel is most likely to be out for the rest of the year. So that could be end of the year. Is that going to creep into the new year against Bournemouth and Liverpool? We'd like to have them back, and Christian Mosquera is already out until mid-January anyway. So we're on bare bones, so might have to look towards some fringe players or even reserve players to kind of get us through the injury crisis. I know Josh Nichols, he's played a few cup games in the Carabao Cup last year, so he could potentially be a option at right back, and young Marley Salmon, who's 16-year-old. I know you wouldn't normally play a defender in there, but again, put him on the bench, give him that experience, get training with the first team, and boy, if you need to put your socks on and get onto the pitch, then you go and do the best you can, because make a name for yourself usually is, you wouldn't want a 16-year-old centre back coming in making their debut in the most critical run-in period, and you're going for a championship, but needs must. I would rather not Rice play centre back and Norgard play in centre midfield, but if that's having to be, but we need to start utilizing our squad a lot more and to avoid these injuries happening again. But yeah, your final thoughts on that kind of monologue, sorry, and yeah, your final thoughts on the game going forward.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely spot on, Zach. Completely agree with what you said. Relieved to have the result against Wolves. I think Arteta's going to have to make some, hopefully give the boys some time to rest. And I think he also mentioned in one of his post-match, responses, reactions, something about like how the team just hasn't had time to train, and
Mm,
so that's how they sort of lose certain elements of, I don't know if it's like organization or
mm,
sharpness or something like that. And so, I felt quite happy to him. It's almost like he's saying to the fans, like, look, we know we've been a bit uh, subpar our standards, but we're going
mm,
to work on it in this week. And that's kind of like how I received it as a fan. I was quite happy to hear that. Um, so I'm super happy that the team's got like a week off, not a week off, but a week until the next game.
mm.
I'm expecting full strength against Everton. And then we have Palace midweek for the,
Carabao.
is it, yeah, is it legs, two legs?
Ooh, I'm not
Um,
sure. I think they got rid of the legs in the Carabao Cup, so I think it
oh, is
might
it?
just be game and
Okay.
off. Yeah.
I think because of the extent of the injuries now with White out, he's gonna have to do some kind of like no guard again at centre back, kind of
Mm,
weird mix up. He's gonna have to do that, with the intentions of rotating the teams, rotating the squads, and just again we're gonna have to keep our fingers crossed. I think that's
mm,
literally it. Like we're pretty much at capacity. We're just one more injury, one more Timber, one more like Rice injury away.
from a
Of
collapse or crisis, isn't it?
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how big your squad is. Like
You can't be dealing with
you
that
do.
many injuries at one to your best players as well.
That's it.
You can't amount a proper title challenge, and we saw that last year. We couldn't amount anything, and that's why we had so many draws last year, because we didn't have a centre forward. Gabriel, Martinelli, Havertz, Saka popping their hamstring for jokes. If your best players are getting injured and they're not available, then what standing chance do you have? Yeah.
Exactly. And just to finish from me, I guess I'd say is this next sort of after this Wolves game, if we can get through the month of December, it sounds like a mountain to climb, but winning all these games, or at least sort of not losing. But I don't even want to say draw. Like if we can somehow, with some luck, win these games, because I think I saw a stat going around where these next upcoming games we dropped points in all of them last season. And so and we know how short the breaks are going to be, even more during the Christmas period. So if we can somehow get through this, whatever the results are with City's games as well, if we are still top after December, I think we've done certainly very well to manage how the injuries we've got,
Mm,
and we're giving ourselves super amount of confidence, going into the second half of the season. I don't know if we can do it. I'm going to be sort of slightly pessimistic.
mm.
I'm hopeful, and I'm really, really hopeful and keeping fingers crossed, everything crossed, that we can do it. But that's kind of how I'm feeling. If we can somehow be top of the league after this period, then we're going to be hopefully locked and loaded for the second half to be raring to go.
Amazing. And I think that caps us off quite nicely. Thank you, folks, for listening in to this first edition of the Brown Gunner podcast with myself, Zach, and Mosin. Hopefully, we did the game some justice, had some good analysis of the game, and hope to see you folks soon. Everyone, thank you very much.
Bye bye.